the sweet waters, sensuality, romance, enjoyment, fertility, and balance. We have Osiris with resurrection. We have the angel of balance. And we have Pisces with the dreamer, mystical, intuitive, psychic, romantic, sacrifice, sensitive, fantasies, escapism, empathy, artistic, adaptive, addictions, ruler of the 12th house. So this is really, really beautiful energy. And oh my God, I'm already starting to roll my eyes because I really don't want to hear ASO. Don't get my hopes up. First of all, hope is like very necessary to be able to navigate this dark world, but also there's nothing wrong with having hope. I think it's when we place specific expectations on those hopes that we run into trouble. But I think one of the blessings coming into your life is that you may be reclaiming a part of yourself, specifically a more whimsical, magical part of yourself. That part of yourself may be coming back and you may be reclaiming it, because it could have been at one point you distanced yourself from it because of the belief that having that perspective brought you pain, having that perspective just set you up for disappointment. And I think what's really beautiful is that, sure, maybe in the past you did have this very whimsical view of the world, but maybe it was like so whimsical and so magical that there wasn't a whole lot of room for reality. And I think what's happening is a rebalancing where you are not only considering realistic factors of life and recognizing like the limitations and barriers to anything and all that exists, but also recognizing that life isn't just doom and gloom. Life isn't just, rigidity and structure, that there is in fact magic in life, and there is more to life than just what we see on the surface. And I think that what's really coming to you is this beautiful awareness that you can have a balanced perspective without letting go of the hopeful, whimsical, magical parts of yourself, because they're a part of what makes you you. And I also think you're going to be recognizing the blessings that have already been in your life that maybe you haven't been recognizing because of like a cynical outlook, or because of, maybe you're dealing with like some sort of mental or emotional or physical health issues that were kind of getting in the way of your ability to enjoy those things. So one thing that I may be hearing is you may be finding like the right sorts of support and tools to help you with that and help you regain some sort of normalcy. But I also just see you recognizing like just what is already within your life and within your world that is beautiful and amazing. And I think that is going to bring about a lot of inspiration and realization of all of the beautiful things that the universe can deliver to you, and all of the ways in which you can set yourself up and take action to make those things happen. The fact that we have romance here twice, I definitely feel like there could be romantic blessings coming in for you, whether you have a partner or you don't. So let's say, for example, maybe if you do have a partner, maybe you are entering a phase with them that is very light, very jovial, especially if you've been going through hard times, or the situation between the two of you has been unbalanced, or maybe if you have like shunned romance or the idea of that, with another person, you may be opening yourself up to that again and recognizing that if that is something your heart truly desires, not only can it happen, but it will happen. But I also think that this has taking like the love aspect out of it, or the romantic aspect out of it. I don't think it's just romance in terms of relationships. I think it's romance in terms of life and your viewpoint of life. Like you're almost looking at life through this romantic lens. Like you could be literally just like romanticizing like walking down the street and smelling the flowers and noticing like all of the cute little creatures running around, or just noticing the beauty of life that we often miss because we are so focused on what isn't working, on what's not happening for us, on what we're frustrated on, and things like that. And I think what's really beautiful is it's not like you're veering into, say, toxic positivity or straight up delusion. It's just, rather than only seeing the glass half empty, you're seeing the full picture and the full spectrum. So you're not losing kind of what you've learned from, maybe having an overly idealized, overly romanticized perspective. but rather just having a more balanced perspective that allows you to see all sides of things, that allows you to see the positive and the negative and the neutral, and allow those things to coexist, to recognize that there are certainly aspects of your life that you wish were different, but that doesn't mean you have to deny yourself the opportunity to enjoy the sweet things in life now. One big thing that I see is you being less hard on yourself when it comes to enjoying aspects of life, especially sensory aspects of life. So whether that is taking the time to go to your favorite coffee shop or tea shop and, make your favorite drink and sit and enjoy it, or taking the time to do artistic things or connect with people that make you feel connected to the deeper elements of life, the things that give you meaning. I feel like you're going to be looking at life from this perspective of, oh, the universe didn't turn its back on me. I turned my back on it. And the only thing I have to do to change that is to be willing to open myself up to the universe again with open arms. I do think it's completely understandable when we run into challenges, when we run into hardships, to really close ourselves off from life, because it can be very painful and it can be very frustrating. And we can also create stories about what that means for us. And I think rather than you creating stories for yourself, you're just going to be observing more, like what the universe might be trying to communicate to you, what you might be learning from certain experiences in your life, and the blessings that come from these experiences. Like, for example, let's say you really, really, really want a partner. And that's something that maybe you've been a bit cynical about because you're like, oh, the universe is never going to bring it. I'm going to be one forever, blah, 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 blah. One blessing, for example, that this energy might be showing up as is you might be realizing, wait a second, that's not necessarily true. But then also recognizing all of the beautiful things that come with being single. That can be things like there's unlimited opportunity. You are able to do what you want when you want. You don't have, like, especially if you live by yourself or you don't live with someone, being able to do whatever you want in the freedom of your own home and not have to consider another person. There's so many, like the grass is always greener on the other side. And I think one beautiful thing that is changing here is you are recognizing how green your own grass is and not taking any moments for granted anymore. I also just think that you're going to be reconnecting with parts of yourself. I know I already said this, but reconnecting with parts of yourself that you thought were bad for you, or you distance yourself from because you thought that they weren't good, or that they were creating more pain. But I think what you're really doing is seeing the aspects of that part of yourself that maybe did contribute to like pain or distorted perspectives, and discarding those without letting go of the healthy aspects of that perspective. That sense of whimsy, that sense of recognition that, miracles can happen in an infinite amount of ways, and the universe is always supporting us. And life really comes down to our perspective and how we see things. And we don't have to see things in this like blindly positive way. We can look at things and recognize, yeah, there are really wonderful things in my life right now, and there are really tough and frustrating things right now. But the wonderful things surely make life a little bit easier and a little bit sweeter, so that it then becomes a little bit easier to deal with the tough aspects of life. I feel like you're just coming into a more nuanced perspective, and I feel like you're going to find that it's not as challenging to see the sweet things in your life. And I think that is something the universe wants to commend you on, because it seems like you've had to work through a lot of like negative mindsets, and you've had to do clearly like a lot of healing from whatever disappointments you've experienced and frustrations you've experienced. And I think that reclaiming this part of yourself that has hope and that believes in the goodness of people and of the world and of life, like I feel like that part of you is coming back, whilst also recognizing that any challenges, any upsets, any frustrations that head your way, not only can you handle them, but you can find ways to cope with that and support yourself while you're handling them, so that life is just a little bit sweeter and a little bit easier. It doesn't have to be so hard and so challenging. And I think too, if you are a creator of some kind, like a writer or an artist or something like that, I feel like all that you have been learning about your own life path, I feel like you're going to be seeing that in other people's lives. And I feel like your perspective is becoming more artistic. Your perspective is also becoming more balanced. And I feel like if you've been experiencing an unprecedented amount of hardships, I feel like that is easing a lot. And I feel like you're going to find that your workload is a lot more manageable, especially if you have been really overwhelmed with work or really overwhelmed with things that have been bringing you down. I feel like the universe is doing a lot on their end to try to make things more manageable and make things more easier, let things out of your hands a little bit. And I do think that there is divine guidance for you where you don't even necessarily need to be connected to it. I just think that there are a lot of good energies and a lot of there's a lot of universal support and making things easier for you because you have been carrying a lot. And I think part of what's going to help you and what is helping you is the recognition of what you don't need to carry and what you don't need to hold on to. And also the recognition of the parts of yourself you haven't been tapping into. I think more than anything, a lot of the blessings coming your way is just enjoying the good things that come, especially in the near future. And I also think with this fertility card, there's a lot of creative growth, and anything that you are wanting to manifest, anything that you've been dreaming about, especially in your heart, I feel like that is going to be manifesting, and it's going to be manifesting in ways that are maybe surprising or maybe just like exciting. Like I'm hearing Cinderella in my head right now. The Disney movie version where, you know, she sings that a dream is a wish your heart makes. And I feel like you're going to be recognizing that it's not delusional to believe in good things coming your way. And it's not a bad thing to have hope and faith in the world. But like maybe, for example, let's say if you've been wanting to manifest a partner or something like that, rather than being focused on one specific person, you may be saying, okay, universe, whether it's this person or someone I don't know or someone else, I trust you to deliver the person that is going to be most supportive towards me, and I trust myself to be discerning enough to know who that person is. Because maybe, for example, the universe will bring, like, it's boring Mercury retrograde right now, so like, you know, maybe the universe will bring back someone that maybe isn't of your highest good, or who doesn't have your best interests at heart. And I feel like you'll be having the discernment and awareness of, no, you know what, like, no matter how much love I have for this person or this situation, like, I'm not going to place expectations on how the universe brings these things to me. I'm just going to trust that whatever comes forward, I have the discernment abilities to know whether it is for me or not for me. And I'm going to say yes to the things that light me up, that make me feel good. So this is a really beautiful energy. And the biggest thing that I do want to say is, like, there is no dream too big. I think the biggest thing that could get in the way of your ability to enjoy these things is if you are focused on the when and the how. Like, if you think of your manifestations as a dish at a restaurant that you ordered and the universe is the chef, I feel like you're really being called to, like, not rush the chef because you don't want to eat uncooked chicken or eat a meal that's not fully baked, you know what I mean? So I really do think that the biggest thing is you're just having a more balanced, objective approach to life that is helping you see the beauty in now and not be wishing your present away, hoping for a more ideal future. The fact that you're seeing the beauty in your present and not projecting your dreams into the future, it's allowing you to take action now that supports your future endeavors. And it's also attracting the things that you want because you're literally embodying these vibrations of these vibrations. I know it's silly, but like, it's a reality. You're embodying these energies of enjoyment, of sensuality, of romance, and those things are helping them come to you, because rather than like projecting them into your future, the universe is going to be reflecting back what you're putting out. Does that make sense? So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into your tarot now. So if you want to know what each of these decks are, in the intro I put like A, B, C, D, E for each question, and the cards will be A, B, C, D, E in the description box. So A will be this card, B will be this card, or this deck, C will be this deck, and so on and so forth. So we're going to start by looking at a specific way in which these blessings and good karma will be manifesting. And so for that, we have death, which I think is really beautiful. Not only is this Scorpio energy, but this is also energy of change. I feel like a lot of challenging issues that you have been holding on to, or things from your past that you've been unable to let go of, I think those are finally leaving your life. And the lessons that you've needed to learn, the growth that you've needed to embody from these challenges, from these hardships, that's what's blooming. I feel like this death card is less about things ending in your life currently, and it's more about the growth that is coming from these endings and the change in perspective that is coming from these endings, and the recognition that you can leave things in the past, that you don't have to carry them with you. And I also think you're going to be recognizing the fact that while you may not be the person you were before you experienced these hardships, before you experienced these challenges, you're now a more, I don't want to say well-rounded individual, because I don't know, but I do think a more well-rounded individual, and just a person with a more nuanced and broad perspective, because you're not focused on seeing the world through one lens. I also think that there's this real acceptance of okay, there are certain things that I need to take from my past with me, like for example, the parts of yourself that maybe you've been neglecting, or the lessons from the past that you've learned, but you don't have to hold on to the stories you've told yourself about that, the beliefs you've cultivated about yourself, especially if they're negative, especially if they're self-deprecating. I think more than anything, this death is a lot about ending what hasn't been serving you. And I do think it's interesting too that we have Osiris here, which is a lot about resurrection. I do feel like it's like the parts of you that you've been missing and yearning for, those are coming back, but the parts of life that you've been done with, that you know don't serve you, you're letting go of those. And so it's just allowing you to reconnect with the old and new parts of yourself that are making up this cool, beautiful, incredible being that you are, and helping you see the world in a more nuanced way, and also just helping you let go of the past and be more excited for what is to come, and for what's already here. I also think too, there's more acceptance for the fact that the things in our life come and go, and that, some people are in our life for a season, some people are in our life for a reason. Some phases are meant to last, some aren't. And I think that there's just more reverence and respect for the cycles in life, and recognizing that, life isn't always going to be super awesome and incredible all the time, but it also isn't always going to be super hard and dark all the time either. There's so many facets and aspects to the human experience. And I think rather than holding on to this idea of things staying the same, or this idea that things should happen according to how you think they should, you're letting go of that and rather following the flow of whatever cycles you're in. And I feel like there's just more of an openness and an acceptance of okay, there's things in life that I can't control, but here's what I can control, and here's what I've learned from these challenges. Here's what I've learned. I feel like one thing as well is that you may be looking at aspects of your life that you didn't have closure of in the past, and recognizing that that you don't have to hold on to those, or that you can give yourself closure. I definitely think that things you thought you would always be held back by, things you thought that would always make your life harder, or you never would be able to enjoy these aspects of life again, you're realizing that you can heal through them, you can grow through them. And that doesn't mean that it's not challenging. That doesn't mean that there isn't pain involved with reconnecting to those parts of yourself. But I think what you will find is that there's a profoundly powerful and healing soul within you that is just dying to express more of life's beauty, because it seems like you've been really stuck in a lot of the painful elements of life and the frustrating elements of life. And that's not something to beat yourself up for. That's normal and understandable. There's so many parts of life that just suck ass, and that's okay. But I think there's many parts of life that are very sweet and very beautiful, and that if we don't cherish them in the moment, we look back on them with nostalgia, wishing we appreciated them more. And so rather than only seeing these blessings in hindsight, you're going to be recognizing them in the present. But now I want to look at what you have done and like praise for whatever good energy you've been sending into the universe, whatever you have done and whatever role you've played in bringing about some of this good karma. So for you, we have the Nine of Swords, which is very beautiful. This is definitely any work that you have done. Sorry, I didn't realize I was on the frame. Any work that you have done to work on your mindset, to work on the like negative thought patterns you've had, and just anything within your perspective that has stopped you from appreciating your life and has stopped you from seeing the beauty, like you have been putting in work to change that. And I also think one big thing that your guides want to commend you on is recognizing where you've been projecting and recognizing where maybe you in the past you were projecting certain ideas onto other people or certain anxieties onto other people or certain beliefs on other people without realizing that they were coming from within yourself. I feel like it's actually really interesting how similar these two cards are in the sense that there's a skull and there's something going through it. And in this one, it kind of looks like swords, whereas in this one, it's a flower. And so I think one thing that you are realizing is just how your perspective can be helpful and how it can get in the way of your ability to enjoy life. So I feel like one thing your guides really want to praise you on is your ability to evolve your perspective, your ability to not get attached to the stories that you're telling yourself. And I think it's so interesting because there's literally a closed book here. And so I feel like you're closing like a lot of old chapters that, stopped you from enjoying life, that made you feel like you couldn't trust yourself, that made you feel like you couldn't trust other people or open yourself up to the scary possibilities that come with, not being certain you could trust something, not being certain how something's going to turn out. I'm hearing Unwritten by Natasha Bedingfield, and I feel like there is this acknowledgement of where you cannot change the past, of where you cannot change how you've approached things, but instead recognizing that there's still so much to write. There is still so much to do in your life. And what you do have control over is that present moment and how that present moment sets you up for more beautiful moments in the future. So I think that you've been working really hard on your mindset. I wouldn't be shocked if some of you have been doing things like cognitive behavioral therapy or, getting help in certain ways. And I feel like your guides are really just commending you on all the work that you've done to make your mental space a lot healthier and a lot more supportive of all facets of you, rather than feeding into those negative thought patterns and getting attached to them as an identity and like making that your whole reality and seeing things in just a bleak, dark perspective. You're recognizing, whatever I have gone through, whatever bleak perspectives I've had, they've taught me things, I've learned from them, but I would not like them to be a part of my future. At the very least, I would like to have tools to handle them when they do come up in my life. So I really do think that Spirit is just commending you on all that you've done to make your headspace a lot healthier and all that you've done to not accept things as they are, but rather recognize that you deserve to have a healthy mental space. You deserve to have a perspective that is more healing and well-rounded. And you also deserve to you have your mind be a place where it helps you enjoy and appreciate and process all aspects of life, not just the negative ones. I really do think that the biggest thing the universe wants to praise you for is how hard you've worked on changing your perspective and how hard you've worked to reclaim the parts of yourself that maybe you rejected when you were in a really negative headspace. So there's just a lot here about just like, you're doing amazing, sweetie. And also like, you should, even though you may feel like at times you're still a person that you're not proud of, or you're still stuck in the past, like it's important to remind yourself and affirm the version of yourself that you are now, because that version of yourself, like they've only been created because of the hard work that you've put in, because of the willingness you've had to let go of and release what hasn't been serving you. So yeah, a lot of what you've been doing is letting go of those negative thought patterns. And I also think too, some of the good karma that you're receiving too comes from the fact that like, as you're healing this perspective, you're also supporting not only yourself, but other people who may still be stuck in those mindsets. And at the very least, like, that doesn't mean you're responsible for healing their mindsets or changing their mindsets, but at the very least, you are a very valuable support system to people that are still struggling with darkness. And rather than like shaming them or belittling them or telling them, just go outside, or like just have you ever tried to stop, like, just not being sad? Like, maybe just stop it. Are you depressed? Why don't you just stop it? Why don't you just drink some water and go outside? Like, rather than being that person, because we all know that doesn't help, you know, instead of like trying to change someone's dark space, you know, instead saying, you know, hey buddy, I'm sorry you're going through a hard time. Like, let me know how I can be there for you and support you, rather than trying to take someone's darkness away from them. Instead, you are supporting them and giving them the grace of just, you know, helping them recognize that they don't have to fix everything on their own, and it's okay for things not to be okay, and that they don't need to immediately fix things if they're not ready. Like, I think that there's just a lot of patience and understanding that you've been extending to others, and I think you're now going to be extending towards yourself, and also just recognizing how much compassion you deserve to give yourself. And also, like, I think you will find that a lot of people are very compassionate towards you and very supportive and proud of you and how far you've come, because a lot of the work you've done on your own, but you've also swallowed the pride of feeling like you need to do everything yourself, and you've also sought appropriate help where need be. So good job with that. Now, this card is going to represent significant positive changes coming to your life as a result of these blessings. And for that, we have the Page of Wands, which I think is really beautiful. I definitely think you're reconnecting to your heart space in a powerful way. I think you are going to be experiencing a lot more energy. And also, I think you're going to be getting a lot more creative inspiration, especially if you are a creative individual or you rely on your creativity for income. You might find that you are bursting with inspiration again. You may have been worried, like if you've been dealing with writer's block or just a lack of inspiration in general. I think that you are gaining a lot of inspiration. And not only that, but I think you're looking at life through a fresh set of eyes. Eyes that are more optimistic, eyes that are more encouraging of yourself, and recognizing, looking at the world not as, what if I can't do it, but rather, well, let me get my hands dirty and and let's try. Let's do something different. Let's go for something that we've been wanting to work towards. I also think that, like, you're going to find that even if you've been doing something, like, say, for example, maybe you've been a writer for years, you may be looking at things with a more beginner's mindset, or you may be approaching your work in a newer way that is more exciting and rejuvenating. So, like, you know, maybe you have defined yourself as only like a nonfiction writer in the past, and now you're saying, maybe like writing fiction is something that could also bring me joy. So now you are incorporating new forms of writing or new forms of creating that is not only allowing what you're already doing to be more fresh, but also I think you may be rekindling your love for certain creative forms. I also think that you are going to find that you just feel more energized in general, like you feel more excited to be a part of life, to live your life. And I think that enthusiasm is going to be a bit infectious. I think other people are also going to notice that shift in you, and they're going to be inspired by your perspective as well. You know, if one of your dreams is to be able to inspire others with your creations, that is exactly what's coming in for you. Like, that is a big thing where you may find that you have the courage to share these things that you create, and they really resonate with people in powerful ways. And I think one thing you need to know is that you have a very unique perspective, and as you are shifting into this energy and as it's coming to you, one thing that you may struggle with is just that doubt that comes with creating of, oh, this isn't good enough, or oh, maybe this needs to change, or oh, maybe I should just keep tweaking this or something like that. And instead you're going to be like, no, you know what? It doesn't have to be perfect. No, you know what? Not everybody has to see this perspective. No, you know what? This doesn't have to resonate with everyone. I'm creating this for me, and for whoever it benefits, it benefits. And I think what you're going to find is that one, you're your own worst critic. So you may find that, like, a lot of other people's encouragement and response to whatever you do create, it's going to help you realize maybe how unnecessarily harsh you're being with yourself. But I also think that you're just going to be feeling less like you, like everything has to be perfect, everything has to be done a certain way, and instead just being creative and allowing your creativity to flow, allowing inspiration to take you places you haven't been before, and allowing the nuance of your many perspectives to come together for this balanced perspective that is not all light or all dark, but rather an intermingling of both, and expression of all the polarities you've experienced and all of the energies that have been a part of your life, and not just the dark ones or the light ones or the ones that you like or the ones that you're ashamed of. Like, I feel like you are coming into balance in yourself in a very powerful way, where you're exploring this new nuanced version of yourself, that, and this nuanced perspective that allows you to have many things be true at once rather than just one thing be true at the expense of the other thing. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Not like I could hear you if you answered me anyway, but I still feel like it's a good thing to ask. But we're going to use this card to look at the paper instead of trying to read it from a far distance. How to ensure you don't block any of these blessings coming your way. So for that, we have the Eight of Cups with the sheep. So one thing that I think you may want to be aware of is certain friend groups, or if they're not friend groups, maybe like online communities or communities that you're involved in, especially if they have to do with like creative forms or have to do with like a specific interest. There may be certain groups of people in your life or groups that you're involved in that you may want to distance yourself from, or that you may want to set boundaries with, because they could maybe be unhelpful in terms of enabling perspectives that don't serve you anymore, that you know don't serve you. So I guess like I'll use myself as an example. I used to love, like when I was younger, like reality TV, and I still like it sometimes. Like I can watch it in small doses. Like, but like for example, way back when, I used to be like a 90-day fiance fiend. Like I was there from the beginning, man. Like I watched that franchise grow, and I used to love the chaos and the drama. Like it was just, no, I've never liked that in my personal life, but it's fun to watch it happen to other people, right? But as I've evolved and like as I've grown as a person, like I can't really enjoy that stuff anymore because it just stresses me out. And I'm like, I just wish these people would make good decisions. And like, oh, like it's too much for me. Like I'm too sensitive to it. And I find that when I try to push through and watch it anyway, it just makes me feel bad and it drains me. It doesn't support the person that I am now. And so using that example, you know, if there's any parts of your life that maybe you really did used to love and enjoy, like a good example would be like if you have certain friends that are very like gossipy, or that love to like, you know, but are very judgmental, that make you feel like not safe. You know, those might be certain people that you want to distance yourself from, especially as you're having these like realizations, because they may quite literally shit all over the insights that you're having. They may try to tear down your perspective or tear down these changes you're having. You may want to be like selective with those people and kind of just move on from whatever mindsets and whatever environments, groups, communities that you've been a part of that are not serving the version of yourself now. Maybe they serve the past version of yourself. Like for example, for me, 90-day fiance served the younger version of myself in college who needed chaos and entertainment. But now it doesn't really serve the person who I am now. So I may just like watch highlights every now and then to see what's going on, but I'm not going to like force myself to sit and watch an entire season. You know what I mean? So just stuff like that, where you're giving yourself the room and the freedom to not like push things away entirely if you're still interested and still want to explore things, but being discerning and being careful with what who you're sharing what with, how much of your time and energy you're spending with certain people in certain environments, especially if they're not serving you. I think anything that makes you feel like you can't be an individual, anything that makes you feel like you have to be a certain way, anything that makes you feel like you have to conform, I think those are things where you're going to want to distance yourself, because you're not embracing the fullness of who you've become, and you're not giving yourself the proper environments to be able to express that fullness. Does that make sense? I think more than anything though, the only way these blessings could be blocked is if you allow people like that to shit all over your progress. Like for example, if you had a friend that you bonded with when you both were in the throes of a really both in the throes of like really dark mental health issues, and maybe you guys were support systems for each other, but now if you found tools and you're growing and evolving, but that person they're still struggling and they can't really hold space for the person that you become, or they have a hard time with the idea that you're healing. Maybe they're not ready, and that's okay. Like that, I think it's very important that we give ourselves the time and the space to deal with something as long as we need to deal with it, to not feel like we have to get help or have to do something if we don't want to, if we're not comfortable with it. And I think sometimes it can be very easy to get attached to our suffering or attached to what we've been through, and there can be a lot of resistance to being open to the idea that life doesn't have to just be suffering, or life doesn't have to just always be that way. And all of that really to say that, you don't have to judge anyone that isn't okay or isn't accepting of how you're evolving. It's just important to recognize that certain friendships or certain connections or certain communities that you were involved with may have served you at one point, but maybe they just don't anymore, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you have to tell those people or tell those communities why they're wrong, but rather just allow yourself to be moved towards what does fulfill you now, what does serve you now. And also recognize that doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life completely or push them away, but rather it maybe means that you're more discerning how much time and energy you do spend with them, what you do share with them, and you're making sure that you're not overextending yourself or violating your own boundaries, things like that. But finally, this card is going to represent how you can generate more good energy, good karma for yourself in the future. And so for that, we have strength. And I think that this is such a beautiful strength card. It's like a person cuddling with a dragon. And I really do think that how you can generate more good karma for yourself in the future is being compassionate towards everyone, including yourself. Recognizing that not everyone is going to be happy for your growth. Not everyone is going to understand why you're making changes, why you're doing things differently, but recognizing that their response to that is much more it has a lot more to do with them than it does with you. Also, the recognition that you don't have to be attached to perspectives your ego has, strength can also kind of correlate with the ego. And a big part of recognizing I think true strength is not trying to control your environment or control others, but rather surrendering to it and working with it in a balanced, compassionate way. I feel like you're going to be recognizing how much strength it takes to acknowledge when you're not okay, how much strength it takes to seek resources and be willing to say, you know what, I need help, even when you may feel very afraid by that, or the thought of not having a perspective you are attached to is really scary. The strength to recognize that, when you share yourself and you share your perspective, not everybody's going to understand it, but the ones that do need to will, and the ones that will support you, you will get that. The strength to recognize that it's okay to not be okay, but it's also okay to recognize that you don't have to be attached to not being okay. That even if things aren't okay, you can look at the beautiful things in your present and say, hey, XYZ sucks right now, but at least ABC is happening. At least I have this. At least I have a roof over my head. Even if it's the smallest things of at least I have clean water. At least I am fed. Those are still things that, we take for granted. And it's very easy to take the beautiful things in our life for granted. And so I think that you're really going to be looking at maybe parts of life that you haven't been seeing very clearly because you've been maybe stuck in a more negative perspective. And rather than demonizing yourself for having that negative perspective, rather than shaming yourself for that, having compassion for the version of yourself that was in so much pain, that perspective was the only way in which you could see the world. And also recognizing that there are many people still stuck there, and rather than shunning them or looking down on them, recognizing that you don't know their path, you don't know how they're perceiving things, you don't know their experience, and that they not only deserve to be able to have the perspective that they feel serves them, but it's also not your job or your responsibility to change it. Sometimes true strength is recognizing that it's not your job to save other people from their problems, but rather to allow them to live their lives with compassionate detachment and recognize that it's not your responsibility to carry their burdens, to carry their struggles. You've got yours to deal with, and we all, have a responsibility to do things the way that we see fit. That's part of free will. And I think part of what you're going to be doing is having the strength to recognize, like, yes, it is scary to open up to life again. Yes, it's scary to be hopeful. It's scary to believe that good things are coming. It's scary to even be optimistic, because what if something bad happens? And it's like, here's the thing, like, shit is gonna happen, because like, that's life. And it's a lot of how we view life. Our perspective is such an important aspect of how we view life. And rather than shaming ourselves for our perspective or shaming others for theirs or trying to change theirs, just recognizing, is this perspective serving me? Is it giving me the strength to face the challenges in life, or is it making me want to run away and hide? I feel like this recognition of like the soft parts of yourself and the fierce parts of yourself can not only coexist, but when they do coexist, it allows you to be a more well-rounded individual when it comes to how you respond to life, when it comes to how you define yourself. And I think that you will be giving yourself the room and the freedom to just be more multidimensional without feeling like you need other people to understand you. I think actually one of the things that may have brought you a lot of pain in the past is people continuously misunderstanding you, continuously trying to put you in boxes that you've never wanted to be in. And rather than accepting that or letting people do that to you, being willing to say no, being okay with the fact that not everyone's going to get you, being okay and secure in the idea that, it takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of courage to own how we're feeling, to share ourselves with the world, to believe in good things, because it is a lot easier to just want to protect ourselves and run away and hide. But I think that you are really going to be giving yourself more peace and more freedom to just relax and embrace and enjoy all parts of yourself, and, give yourself the room and the freedom to not feel like you're responsible for the suffering of others in addition to your own suffering. Does that make sense? And also, like, I don't think we're necessarily responsible for our own suffering, but I think we can contribute to it. Does that make sense? Like, and whether it's intentional or not, we still deserve to be compassionate towards ourselves and compassionate towards, our experiences, because we are shaped by so much in this world. We're shaped by society. We're shaped by how we're raised. We're shaped by, our personalities and how we view the world. There's so many things that shape us and make us become who we are. But I think the important thing is not being attached to who we think we are, and instead making room for us to discover more parts of ourselves and recognize that we can be so many different things at once. And it's not our problem if other people aren't creative enough to see all of those facets. Having the strength to recognize that you don't need others' validation, you need your validation. You don't need other people's unconditional support, you need your unconditional support. You don't need other people's understanding and compassion so much as you need your own understanding and compassion for yourself, and not waiting for other people to give you that permission to live life or give you permission to see things in a certain way, but rather just say, this is my life, this is my perspective, and I'm allowed to view it in whatever damn way I wish. And it's definitely more helpful to have one that allows for the sweet things in life and not just only looking at the hard parts. I think one perspective that creates a lot of pain is this idea that we are supposed to be happy all the time, or that life is supposed to be hunky-dory all the time, because that's not true. There are always going to be parts of life that maybe we wish we could change. There are always going to be things that maybe we're not 100% happy with. But I think, I think capitalism especially feeds this idea, oh, if you get this thing, if you do XYZ, you will be happy. If you make this, like, you will be happy and you will have no issues. And I think that, for example, is something that creates a lot of suffering, because it gives people, it feeds into this belief that life should be without suffering, or that suffering shouldn't exist. And like, yes, that's a beautiful notion, it's a beautiful idea, but we're nowhere near that yet as a human collective. So recognizing that clearly there is a lot of suffering in the world, and there is a lot of hardship in the world, but that also doesn't mean that you carry the suffering of the entire world on your shoulders and rob yourself of the opportunity to feel beautiful things, to feel joy, to see the beautiful things in the moment, and recognize that this joy and bliss also coexists with suffering and despair and all of those things in between. Like, life is so many things at once, and we don't have to tailor our perspective to only view it in one way. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and finish off this reading with some guidance for you moving forward. So, beautiful. Surrender to complete healing. Open to the fully loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. Yeah, I think a lot of your healing in the future is not going to be painful healing in the sense where you're facing a lot of wounds, but rather allowing the parts of yourself that you detached from when you were going through really painful experiences, allowing those parts of yourself to come back and creating space for them and nourishing them and supporting them. And I think that there's a lot of positive ways in which you're going to be healing, where you're going to be allowing yourself to enjoy things, allowing yourself to say no to things that don't make you feel good, allowing yourself to say no to people that make you feel like you shouldn't feel good. And also allowing yourself to say yes to things that do make you feel good, and not pushing away the beautiful things the universe wants to bring to you just because you're worried you don't deserve it, or you're worried or you feel guilty about feeling good. Like, I think we all kind of feel that way sometimes, but if you think about it, yeah, sure, there are people that have it worse than you, but there are also people that have it better than you. So, the more you just recognize that it's less about what other people are doing instead of comparing yourself, just giving yourself, we all, no human leaves this earth unscathed. We all know what it is like to be in pain. We all know what it's like to deal with wounds. We all know what it is like to suffer, and we don't need to compare suffering, and we don't need to belittle other people because they're not suffering. We all go through different cycles at different times in our life, and I think right now, the universe is working really hard to help you heal in powerful ways that are going to allow you to see the sweetness in life and feel and have those beautiful experiences despite whatever suffering you might be facing. And also, you're going to be receiving tools, and I think you already have in a lot of ways, that are allowing you to just be a more embodied version of yourself, and just be so much more of yourself than you were before. Rather than cutting off parts of yourself because you think you need to be a certain way in order to be accepted, there's this recognition that, oh no, I just need to be me. And the people that vibe with that, the people that support that, yeah, they're great, and they can stay, and I can be open to more people that will appreciate that. And the people that don't respond well to the different parts of myself, the people that don't support me from a place of love, maybe those are people I need to distance myself from. But we also have the eagle, and I'm going to look on my phone and see what else the eagle has to say, because I didn't bring the guidebook with me. You know how luggage weight can be. I'm not trying to pay for those fees. But one thing with the eagle thing is flying above a lot of the nonsense, flying above a lot of the drama. And also when you are stuck in a mindset that isn't helping you, that is taking you out of a more balanced perspective, that is taking you back to a version of yourself that you don't want to be anymore, or a perspective that doesn't align with your heart and your soul, I feel like a lot of the tools that you've been cultivating are going to allow you to, instead of just being stuck in that perspective, kind of see beyond it and observe what's happening. Because when we have those perspectives in our brain, it really comes down to conditioning, and it comes down to, we are going to naturally see things in ways, our brain is actually going to do things in ways that are more habitual, that it's more conditioned to do. And it takes a lot of observation, it takes a lot of awareness and higher thought to work through that. And I think not beating yourself up when maybe you fall into old patterns, or not shaming yourself when you still feel and experience things that you don't want to feel and experience, because we're human, like that happens. Adding a spiritual perspective is not about eliminating your humanity. It's about bringing more meaning to your humanity and recognizing that all aspects of humanity serve, even the parts that we don't necessarily like, even the parts that we wish were different. But yeah, let me look at ego. Where are you, ego? All-pervading power, truth seeker, transforms karma. The noble eagle emanates the light of the sun. This great bird is both physically and spiritually strong. That's you. And represents mastery over the elements of fire and air. So this could definitely also be healing of your masculine energies that allow you to be in your soft feminine energy more. Like everybody has feminine and masculine energy. And I guess I would say yang energy and yin energy. Like you're balancing your yang energy in ways that are going to allow you to be more yin, where you are, instead of feeling like you need to always make things happen, instead you allow things to flow to you. Instead of feeling like every hour of your day needs to be structured with productivity, giving yourself the freedom to just chillax and enjoy things for the sake of, because you deserve to enjoy something today. When the eagle appears, you'll soon be thrown into the karmic fire for the sake of your transformation. The eagle pushes us to be our best and brightest selves and stops at nothing to see us shine. Grasp the sun in your talons and hold on for the ride. You are stronger than you think, eagle child. And when it's in balance, it's bright, radiant, and challenges. And when it's out of balance, it's controlling. And to bring into balance is to step into the unknown. And so I definitely think that you've kind of already been experiencing a lot of this. But I think what's happening now is you're rewriting the stories you're telling yourself about it. And also I think that the universe is helping you step into challenges that are going to allow you to surrender into this complete healing, that are going to allow you to surrender into this more balanced perspective that allows for nuance, that allows for you to feel many things at once, to be unsure of what you should think, to be unsure of how you're meant to do something, and rather just go with the flow and follow what feels right and be okay with the idea that, yeah, you can make mistakes. Yeah, listen, in the words of our Lord and Savior, Hannah Montana, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody gets that way. Nobody's perfect. And I think that a lot of what you're going to be doing is flying above a lot of the unnecessary drama, a lot of the necessary mental and emotional conflict that maybe made you feel like in the past you were allowed to feel both hard things and light things, both. Anything that has not allowed you to be all versions of yourself, I think is coming through. And I think a lot of your good karma that's coming to you is this ability to fly above what held you down in the past, this ability to have more sweetness, and the ability to empower yourself to take action to make life sweeter. Whether that is, like I said, making sure you're going to your favorite, coffee shop and getting yourself coffee or boba tea, whether that's redecorating your space to reflect who you are now, whether that's dressing in a different way that authentically reflects that, or changing the things that you explore. No matter what it is, as American, I do see the eagle as freedom. And I do think that one thing common to you is the ultimate freedom to express yourself authentically and not feel chained by the expectations of society or anything that wants to hold you down. America. Embody your inner America, not in any of the problematic ways, but in the in the freedom-loving way that allows yourself to be your authentic, free self and fly above a lot of the mental and social prisons that we create and that exist that stop us from being our authentic self. But we also have clearing, obstacles removed, and make space. So I definitely think that as you clear the things that don't serve you, like for example, walking away from the things that take up a lot of your time that aren't serving you anymore, walking away from the things that keep you stuck in a past version of yourself, I also think that this is an encouragement if you have like objects in your house or in your space that really take you back to a time in your life that you really don't want to think about as much, that you really don't want to be attached to, that might be worth like looking into getting rid of certain things, of donating certain things. But I also think just learning to make space for life to happen, whether that is giving yourself more time off to just do what makes you happy. And if what makes you happy is doing absolutely nothing, then do it, bitch. Like, I love doing nothing. Doing nothing is great. Like, sometimes we need that. And also, I think mental clearing, learning how to clear our mind and clear our thoughts so that we can make more room for, insights the universe has for us, make more room for observation rather than analysis. Like, things like that will really help you see through maybe obstacles that have solutions and obstacles that were only a perception or an illusion in the first place. But we also have time to reflect, and I definitely think that's what you're in the process of now. And I do think a lot of your like creative inspiration will be focused on reflection of all these things that you've been learning and all of the ways in which you've grown. And I just feel so much pride and like honor to be able to read for you. And one thing I do feel like you just need to give yourself credit for is that through all of this, I bet one thing that you've learned is like that you know a whole lot less than you thought you did. And the more you learn, the less you'll know, and the more freedom there is in that, because then you don't have to make judgments or make assessments, but instead you can just observe and see what life has to come to you. You can flow with what is, and you can also, learn through action, learn through discovery. And I think as well, as you reflect, you'll really be able to see how much you've grown. And I think you'll have a lot of appreciation for the past versions of yourself and how hard those versions of yourself worked to get you to where you are now. And I feel like one important thing is to not shun or shame yourself for past versions that you may not be proud of, but rather have compassion for those versions of yourself and recognize that they were doing the best they could with the knowledge they had, same as you're doing now. And you deserve to give yourself grace, mercy, and compassion. And also, you deserve to not hold on to things and people and communities and shit like that makes you feel like you have to be perfect or you have to know everything or that you have to see things in one way. It's not your fault that other people are not creative enough or open-minded enough to have more nuance in their life. But it is your responsibility to be discerning and be cautious with how you interact with that so that you don't get in your own way. And finally, we have value is not determined by size. And I think that is just so big because a lot of these blessings, what I may be talking about, while they may be less concrete, the value is immense. And the blessings that are coming to you are blessings that you can't buy in a store, that you can't have just like delivered to your doorstep. Like these are blessings that you have to cultivate, and they can only be cultivated by wisdom, by maturity, by growth, a willingness to release what isn't serving us, a willingness to look at things differently, a willingness to be okay with being humbled by life and recognizing that, hey, we don't know everything. And hey, maybe we could have helped ourselves more in the past, but it sure as hell isn't going to help us to shame ourselves for what we didn't know, because now that we do know, we can do something about it. And I also just think too, the value is not determined by size. I also think recognizing like the fact that you don't need a big following to share your life. You don't need you don't need a lot of support in order to do something that you care about. Like, your worth is not determined by how many friends you have or how many likes a picture has. Like, your value is determined by things like how you see yourself, what you value in the world, and also recognizing that you don't need other people's perspectives and other people to acknowledge your value in order for you to have it. You are valuable. Like, you are valuable because you exist. And also, on the flip side, if you have like issues like with body image, your value is not determined by the size on your clothes. Your value is not determined by what your body looks like or how much space you take up. And anyone that makes you, and anyone that treats you that way, one, their perspective doesn't need to have room in your life, and they certainly don't need to take up room in your life, because anyone that is that shallow and ignorant, they clearly got their own issues that have nothing to do with you. But also, your value is not determined by superficial bullshit like that. And anyone that makes you feel that way, just thank your lucky stars that you're not that ignorant and not that close-minded. But overall, pile one, there's a lot of beautiful things coming your way. And I think one of the most beautiful things coming your way is an acknowledgement of how much of yourself you have yet to discover, and how valuable and important all parts of yourself and all parts of your experience have been. And I think there's a lot of beautiful things coming your way, and it has less to do with the fact that it's coming to you more, and rather you're just seeing what's been there all along. And so the beautiful things that are coming are going to flow to you more easily. So pile one, that is where I'm going to leave this reading. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for letting my ads play in the background while you do something else, because that is one of the simplest and easiest ways to support me, my channel, and help me and show appreciation for what I do. But if you'd like to do that in other ways, you can like this video, comment down below, let me know how it resonates. You can subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to click that little notification bell to be notified whenever I upload a new reading. You can also check out other videos with extendeds. That's very helpful. You can check out my merch, my candles. Be sure to use code ASO10 for 10% off. You can check out my social media, which is really just Instagram at this point.